the cloud. All right, take it away, Dan.
Okay. Or is this not one? There we go. Okay, so I'm Dan Fitzpatrick. I make companies. Right now, I'm running two companies. My old one, which is ePark Labs, which is a software, like custom software company. Then AeroBook, I just started 10 months ago, which is a Wikipedia for the aviation industry and aerospace. And it's also got some apps in there. So we've got like about right now about 250,000 wiki pages of aircraft parts and aircraft and materials and processes and all that. And then we're adding in these applications for airlines and repair stations and suppliers to collaborate with each other and share files and generate FAA documents and all that stuff. I've been in that industry about 30 years, so
Yeah.
it's I'm taking all my wisdom and putting it into a giant app. So I have an undergrad in art from UC Irvine and the School of Fine Art in Bordeaux, and an MBA in entrepreneurship from USC. I've started 25 companies and sold 12, merged 5, and closed 8. So I've been on the roller coaster. And I've lived in 8 states and 12 countries. And I have 5 kids who are right now 19 to 28 years old. All right, so. Okay, so I'm going to talk tonight about Waxx, which is a framework I wrote in Ruby that basically competes with Rails because I hate Rails. And I just I don't like so many things about Rails, but I know everyone uses Rails. But anyway, so this is I was using Go and doing some Haskell stuff, and I was kind of frustrated at how fast Go was, and I wanted the pleasure of Ruby with the speed of Go. So I was looking at how Go apps were made, and it was like, I'm just going to make a Ruby thing that works like Go, where everything's a function. And so that's what I did, and the speed is just insane. So Waxx has no classes other than hash and array or whatever, the built-in ones. You don't write the word class anywhere. It's all modules that extend self, so you can access them from outside the module. And so it's really fast. It sits behind Nginx. That's how I do it. So Nginx serves all the images and all this stuff. And I use Nginx as a reverse proxy, so I can have some of the systems I build have multiple Waxx instances or other instances. And Nginx is the traffic cop to know which system to go to based on the URL. And Waxx includes the app server, talking to the database, access control, and rendering all the output. HTMX I just started using about 3 months ago, so I'm not an expert in it, but it's pretty simple. It's basically takes the place of React or Svelte or all those Vue, all those front end libraries. It's a single file you can just serve. There's no compiling. Everything just runs on the client, and I really like it. And so the user interactions trigger pieces of your page to get updated, and you add these HX dash things, which I'll get into. So this is basically Waxx. So Waxx takes REST, which is representational state transfer, which is take like an object, put it in a URL path, and then you do put, post, delete, get, patch, info. And then RPC is remote procedure call. That's where you have normally you have like a static URL, and you post in an object that says, this is the action I want to take. Here's the data. It's basically like an object that gets sent to a location, and then the server does its thing. A lot of Java is with this. So Waxx kind of took those two concepts and smashed them together. So it has URL routing in the sense of this path is located here, but all the URLs map to functions, and they're anonymous functions in an object. And then you return HTML or JSON or PDF or whatever. So a normal Waxx instance does about 8,000 requests per second and per CPU core. Mostly because it's just running functions and there's no instantiation of really anything other than the request object, which is a struct, which is for some reason a little faster than a class. And some of the big systems I've built, the biggest one has 1,800 tables and 2,200 database views, a big ERP system. And so all the code is organized by, instead of having routes or, views in controllers in different folders, everything is mapped to a database table. So like a person table would be the person folder and everything is in that folder. And then say like a customer invoice, say a table called customer underscore invoice. There's a customer folder and then a subfolder is invoice, and everything for customer invoice is in that folder. So it's really easy when I develop code for different companies and I want to have the customer module, I just copy that folder, stick it in another Waxx instance, and it just works. And you got to have the database.
So Dan, I have a question. What's ERP stand for?
Oh, enterprise resource planning, which is basically running a company. It's invoicing, inventory, HR, finance, like big giant systems. Okay. Thanks. Okay, did I get everything there? Oh yeah, so it has it's very easy to maintain, and it has a RBAC, which is role-based access control. So it has a user system. You put users in groups, and then you say what groups are allowed to do what roles. And so there's no classes. The routes map, I think I covered this. So this is basically a route object here. There's a description, which is just a text thing, so you know what it is. There's the access control, which can be a string, which is a group name. It can be an array of group names, or it can be a function. When it's a function, you can do any kind of logic that you want, and you return true or false if the person can get into that. And then the HTTP methods are, all of those, and those are all separate functions. So here's the terminology. So an object maps to a database table or an API. Those are kind of the same. So I really like SQL, so it's very much database driven, this thing, how things work. A view is like a database view, and it just says, here's the fields that we're going to work with in this view. And then a layout is how you render it, HTML or Excel file or PDF or whatever. Then X is this context variable, and this is the thing that gets passed around. So because it's functional, there's no global variable of anything. And it's also multi-threaded and multi-processed, so you can't have any sharing of anything. So the context, X includes the request and the response and all that stuff. So the object defines what fields are in the database. There's some systems I've built where my system is not allowed to interact with other fields in a specific table. Like I can only say the table has 30 columns. I can only deal with 15 of them. So I can tell Waxx, this table only has these 15 fields, and there's no way that Waxx will do anything with any of the other fields. So it has this has function, and then it has a runs function, which is the API, where you expose all the actions that thing can do from the outside world. Then there's helper functions, and then an object you can call get on an object and pass in parameters to do filtering. And views are the same way. So a view maps to a database view, not a Rails view. And so you list a subset of fields that you want to list. Like let's say you're say you have a person table and you're going to list the people and there's a bio column, you don't put that in your list view. So you just don't have the bio in the list view. You have first name, last name, maybe email or phone number or whatever. And so it's a subset of fields. And then it has some filter systems where you can specify what fields you can query on from the URL, and it writes the queries for you automatically. And then if you have a queue parameter, you say which fields you can search on, like however you want. So like first name, last name, maybe email would be searchable by the queue parameter. And then this also has get, post, put, delete, and it only interacts with the fields that are on the view. So it's like a little safer than in Rails where you can like take an object and say, here, update this object, and it updates everything. So it's rather easy to get stuff passed in there. At least it used to be. I haven't used Rails in a long time. Then the layouts are, which layout you use is driven by the URL. So if you have invoice view 123.json, you're going to get a JSON version of the invoice. If it's empty, it's an HTML version. If it's .pdf, it's PDF. I kind of just ignore all of the request header stuff because it's a pain to use from the browser. So I just made it where you just change the extension, and then Waxx will figure out which view layout that you want to see, that you want to get back. And then this is the X is this variable. It has a request object, which has get, post, the data, the raw data, if you need to process a file or something, the environment. Then the response, res is the response, and that's where all the response stuff goes. The response is an array that you can push to. The response also has a handle on the IO of the connection. So you can actually flush your content out like at an interval. If you're doing a really long process, you can say what step you're at. The DB connections are in there. A lot of systems I build have more than one database connection. So they're basically, you can talk to multiple databases from within the Waxx DB and then the database name. And then there's the user. USR is the user object. You just set attributes on that and it automatically gets put in the cookie. Cookie gets encrypted and sent out to the client. So it's all done automatically. And then the UA is the user agent. So that's like the long term, like remember my username, or don't show me these cookies or whatever. Don't store whatever, all that stuff. Okay, so this is the how the API works. So this is a super structured thing. The first word of the URL after .com or whatever / maps to the module. All the modules start in the namespace of app. So app : person. When you do /person, it goes to that module. And then person / list runs the list runner. And then if it's a get method, it'll call the get in app person runs list get. So I'll show you how this works here. Okay, so here's the module app person. And then there's a runs method, which is that function, not a method. That function gets called when the file gets loaded. And it basically puts this list. It's basically an argument list of name value pairs, the value being the object of what this list thing is. And then because it's a get request, you have the get anonymous function, and all of these get passed in the X context. So the request response, everything is in that X right there. So let me use my mouse here. Does this thing work?
Yeah, I saw it.
There it is. Okay. So this X is the whole context. So people, I say list. So list here is a view. get, and then I pass in X, and then I say list render, and render figures out whether I'm a JSON or an HTML or a PDF or whatever.
So list is a database view.
List is a database view, right? And then and that's all. That's basically, this is like a controller, basically. Yes.
Make sure I'm following this correctly. You're basically using database views as persistent queries. So instead of having to write a query, or like the view represents the query that is used for this route.
You don't have to use a view. A view is a so there's a table, which is person, and then you can have a view, which is the list view, and you just say which fields are on that view, which is basically just a list of symbols that map to first name, last name, email. And then so that I'll get into the code in this, but yeah, that's you can do real database views, or you can make your like virtual views, either one. Okay, now this is how the parameters work. So this is a similar thing, but I'm going to put, so I'm on the record, and I'm going to do an update. So I have my URL is person record 1, 2, 3, and then there's this key here. This is just an example for how you see things. So I'm in the app person module, and then the runs method. So you pass a whole bunch of these in. I'm not showing them all, but the list one, assume, is above this one. So then you have record, and then the ACL means you have to be logged in, because it's everyone who logs in is in the user group. So basically anyone who's a logged in user can hit this thing. And then the anonymous function here for put, when a put request comes in, it takes these parameters in the URL and they come into here. So you're basically defining like, what is my function and what are the parameters? And these parameters are coming in, you know, in the / delimited, basically. You can still have your question mark and all your other parameters. Those come in a different place than this. But it's really easy to look at a URL in your app and say, where's the code for this? You don't have to go hunting for it. You know exactly what file it's in, and you know exactly what the method is called. So finding code on a huge system can be really annoying. So this makes it super easy to know exactly where that code is. And so anyway, that's the end of the presentation. So now we're going to look at some code. Okay, this is crazy. All right, so can you guys see this code back there?
You'll see that all right in the back?
Yeah.
Okay, so this is a Waxx object. So this is the item object. Oh, I'm building a shopping list app. It'll take like another 5 minutes to show the web browser as this happens. So I'll show you the code first, and then we'll look at the app. Well, maybe should we do the app first? Okay. So this is basically the module app item. So there's an item table. It extends Waxx PG, which is Postgres, because it's talking to a Postgres database. You extend self, so you can call these functions from outside of the module. This is just a Ruby thing, not a Waxx thing. So then I have the has, and these are all the fields in the database that Waxx is going to talk to. And it has the type, and this one tells that it's the primary key. And then this one has another attribute, which is order. So when you pass in the order parameter, like you say, list question mark order equals, and you say name, then it will sort by category first and then name. So this is an override because I want the categories always to come before the name. So that you don't normally need this, but I'm overriding. The same, if you sort by category, I also want the category first and the name second. So those are both the same. Then I have is bought. So this is a shopping list. This is an item in a shopping list. And then I have the bought date. the created, and the sort type, which I don't actually use that field. Now this one's really interesting. So this is a list ID. So there's a list table and an item table in the system. So this list ID refers to the table list. And so I say in the field definition here, I say this list ID is, I give it a name, colon, and then the table name and the ID. So I can refer to this in the views, and it builds all the joins for you automatically. And if you put a little plus sign here, this is Oracle style, I kind of liked it, then it's a left join. So this is an inner join because there's no little plus there. Because you can't have an item that's not on a list, so it's an inner join. Okay, then we have this categories function is this isn't by default, this wouldn't be here. The top part gets generated automatically. If you say Waxx gen app and you give it a name, it'll create that whole part for you, so you don't have to type all that stuff. And then this is so the default database connection is app, and then that's just a Ruby PG thing. So you just call exec on it and you can pass in a list. So this is getting the distinct categories of all the items. So this is used for drop-down menus and stuff like that. Broadcast change, this is for the server sent events, which we'll get into later. Okay, then we'll come down here to the routes or the runners or whatever you call them. Okay, so the runs function, this is where you're defining your API for the outside world. And so there's a default one is list. So if you come into just /item, you're going to go to the list one by default. If you don't have a default in there, you're going to get a not found error because it doesn't know what to do. So you have your description, and this is just a string. It doesn't have anything to do with code. Although I'll show you the introspection. There's an API to get all of the interfaces in your app. So I'll show you that when we get to the web browser. You have to be a user logged in, and then if you do a get method, then this thing gets run, and I can pass in an optional list ID, and I get my data from the list view, and there's an args attribute, which I'm taking the request get that comes in the params, and I'm injecting a few more things. So I'm going to order by category, and I'm going to make the list ID so I'm basically telling it that this list ID is equal to this list ID for this, because there's some magic that happens with this args thing. And then I'm going to render this. And okay, then I have, see, I'd really like to jump over to the browser right now. Okay. So then I have a search thing. So there's at the top of this app, there's a search bar, and you type stuff in there and it automatically goes and gets your items. So it's slightly different interface because it doesn't have a list ID. So there's no list ID here, and there's no list ID here. Okay, then I have record. This is where all the CRUD stuff happens. So there you can get a record, you can put, and so I get the item. I need to know whether it's bought or not. So I'm doing a thing here where it says, if I'm buying something and I check it off as bought, I want to know the date I bought it last. So I'm merging the post request with the bought date. So does that make sense? So I'm buying it. I'm saying I bought it. Well, first I'm saying it's not bought, and then I'm saying I'm setting it to is bought true. So I'm gonna set the date of when it was bought. Does that make sense? Right. And then I put the record as a view, and then I put the data and I return everything in the view. And then I render it. Now this broadcast change this is for the server sent events that says, I just got myself updated. I'm going to broadcast this out to anyone else, any browser that's looking at the shopping list. So my wife and I can be in Costco at the same time, not together, and we know who bought what. Okay. And then there's post and delete. And then there's a view. So view is a read only, like just show me what single record. Okay, so let me show you the, I actually have other windows, but since I can't do that, I'm just going to quit here. And we're going to go to the list view. We'll edit anyway. Okay. Okay, so this is a view in the list. So we're at the module app list, and then it has a submodule called, app item. It has the list view of the items. And so this extends Waxx view. This as JSON says, I'm allowed to render this thing as JSON, because some interfaces you don't want people to just pull it out as JSON. And because of this as JSON here, it's basically like render as JSON. It'll take these fields. This has a limited, it doesn't have all those fields that were in the original table. This is only the fields that I care about. And then it has this, so all the ones that are just symbols are field names. And then this field is a special field where I want the list name from the list table. And I say, this is the name it is in my query, and I can reference it in my code, and it's made from the list, and name is the field in the list table called name. Does that make sense? Okay. So then I have this match in, search in. So if there's a match in and I put it in here, I can say question mark in the URL, I can say question mark list underscore ID equals 1, and it will give me all the records where list ID equals 1. And if I say category equals produce, it will give me all the category that equals produce. And you can use both of those. So you can say list 1, list equals list ID equals 1, question mark or ampersand produce equals, category equals produce, and it'll give you both of those. And then if you want to search by Q, like Q equals, apples, then it will search in category and name for apples. And that generates all the SQL for you. Does that make sense? It's basically, this thing is for doing all the simple stuff really easily, but you can also do super advanced stuff easily with writing more code. Okay, so when you do, now we're in a layout. So a layout is how you want to see the data in the view. You don't need a special one for JSON because it just takes the object and spits it, turns it into JSON. Although if you wanted to do a special thing, you could. So because we're doing a GET request, it calls the GET method here inside the HTML module. And this is a submodule of app item list HTML. And then the app HTML, this is another module where the render function is, and this is where I put all my website stuff, like all the navigation and all the stuff that goes around the actual content that you're looking at. And so it has a title attribute, and then I have this style. This page has a special style that I use just on this page, so I put it right here. So this style style is calling this function, and it returns this checkbox thing where it puts a line through anything you bought. And then the content is down here. There's a form. Okay, so this is the content. So this is just this is just plain old HTML here. inside this block right here. And then when I generate the HTML, I call other functions. So all the HTML is generated inside of functions. I don't use any templating language. It's just pure Ruby. Brock Coolman hates this. Or Brock Coolman.
Everything else.
Well, he thinks everything should be in a template system. And I just really like being in Ruby all the time.
You seen Flex?
What's that?
Have you seen Flex?
Flex. No.
It might be a middle ground that you and Brooke could agree on.
Okay.
Because it's pure Ruby templating. So
Okay.
you could write it inside here.
Right.
And it would be Ruby instead of strings.
Has anyone used tags library that Aero wrote? So that's basically like every HTML element is a function. And you can,
Flex is synonymous.
yeah, you can have like this full thing. Anyway, I've done a couple apps using that. The thing I don't like about it is if you want a nice piece of HTML, like a snippet somewhere, you got to convert it into this other thing. It's like, I just like to take like a piece of HTML, and now with AI, like make some HTML that looks like this. You can just copy it and paste it and throw some variables in and you're done. That's what I kind of like it like that. Okay, so I have three functions here that get called: the nav, the form, and the table. So this is the nav. It loops over all my lists. Oh, this is one thing. This would drive Brooke crazy too. So I go get when I'm in the list nav, I go query the database again to get the lists of all the lists. And people hate this, except from my point of view, the data that you get for the thing you're dealing with is one thing, and data that you get for the UI is a separate thing. So this query right here, which is app list. So this is the list database table. This is a table as a view, and then I'm getting it and I want it ordered by name. And this is only used inside this function to generate my list of these are tabs that you can click on: Costco, Walmart, Target, Trader Joe's.
It's not actually a database query,
It is a query.
but you said it was a view.
It's querying the view for the data.
Well,
The get method turns it into a query.
you melted my brain there.
Okay.
Yeah.
But that's not like any different than calling like an association in an HTML view in Rails, right? If you did like
I think it's the term view that's probably
Yeah,
throwing people off.
yeah.
Oh.
Not like a database view, but like a
Yeah. A layout.
layout view. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yes.
So yeah.
I mean, it's not heard in Rails view land where you're rendering HTML to make database calls inside there. That happens.
Yeah, that's what
Yeah.
you do that a lot. I thought you didn't do that. You better talk to
No.
Brooke.
Right, you're like you would change, like you would be rendering a Rails view or a layout, and you might be chaining off like a user object to list like a user's organizations or other things like that, so that you could render that stuff in the view.
Yeah, so it's the calling of the view code that actually triggers the database call. Like,
Right,
you might pass in the
right.
association, but what actually triggers it in active record happens.
Right, when you're evaluating when the ERB is evaluated.
Okay.
Yeah, because of the lazy load.
Yeah.
We still call fragments.
So yeah.
All right. Okay, then here's the table. There's a bunch of logic in here. Okay, here's where we get into the HTMX. Okay, so we have an input field here, and what this is for is to add a new item to a list. So say you're in the produce and you want to add apples. This is the field where you would type apples. And so basically HX post means this is the path to where you're going to send the post to. So I'm in an input tag, a normal HTML input tag. It has a form control class, which is a bootstrap thing. And then I have a max width on it. And then its name is name because it's the name of the item. And then it says new. So this is category here. So this will say like new produce item, or it'll say new, like dry goods or whatever. I don't know what all these categories are. Oh, this is important too. So H here escapes the HTML. So that's what, I have a few functions like that, like F is format for dates and numbers. H, I have a B for Booleans, which you put in like I want a yes or a no, or true or false, or those kind of things. Okay, so then I'm gonna when I type into this field and hit enter, which is the trigger here, the trigger says on key up and the key is enter. I'm gonna execute the post. And I'm going to, in addition to the name variable, which gets put in automatically, I'm also going to add the list ID and the category. So when you hit enter on this form field, it's going to include the name, the list ID, and the category in the post. And there's no JavaScript to write here. This is all you write to do all that. And then target is what HTML element is going to get updated. And then the swap is what you're swapping. So you can swap the default swap is the inner HTML. So if you say the target is this div tag, and I want the result of my query to go injected into that div tag, like between the start and the beginning and the end. You can say outer HTML, which will replace the whole outer, it'll replace the divs with that ID number or ID code. This one I'm doing after begin, which means at the top of a list. So
Prepend.
there's before begin, which is before the target. So you can, if you know like a child, you can say put it above the child. In this case, I know the container and I want it to go into the top of the container. So it's after the container begins. You can have before end and after end, and there's like 20 different swaps that you can do, types. So I think we should look at something because this is like too much stuff.
Yeah.
Context.
Yeah, so that
What's that?
you can stop sharing and
Okay.
hopefully it's not too difficult to reshare.
Yeah. Okay. So here's the app I built for this thing. Well, actually, my son built this like 6 years ago, and he made it with I think it was jQuery. So I pulled all I left all the HTML the same, pulled the jQuery out and put HTMX in. Okay, so this is our list. So first we have our lists. So this is the list table, and I can make a new list. Where do we want to shop? Trader Joe's.
Sure. Good.
Is it working? Okay.
Yeah, it's working.
Okay. Oh, I made two. Oops, we'll delete one.
It's
Okay, so watch this. So these buttons and everything that's happening is from HTMX. So this is our list, and we can delete one. Well, I just deleted one. So this delete button is an HTMX. It's a normal button, and then the HTMX says send the delete method to this URL, and then the response back is
remove that line.
what's that?
Remove the line.
Yeah, well, it basically says you deleted Trader Joe's.
Oh, sure.
And then I put another HTMX button in there to undo my delete, which will then do a post and put it back
Bring
in.
it back. Yeah.
And after like 6 seconds, that line goes away.
What happens if there are items in the list and you delete the list, but then you undo it?
They're still there.
Really?
Well, you can cascade your delete. I don't have it doing that. But I actually, when I put the list back in, I keep the ID number the same. So when you post, you can put the ID in, so everything stays exactly the way it was.
What if you delete a list and then you're orphaning items?
They're orphaned.
Didn't you just say that, didn't you say earlier that all of your items have a list?
Yeah, well, they have a list ID,
But that can go
There's not,
away.
there's not.
but I mean, in a real
14
system, I do
14 constraint.
a cascade delete and wipe out all the list items. But okay, so now we're gonna shop. Okay, so let's we need some more canned goods. Let's get some chili maybe. So we're gonna okay. So this was that field we were just looking at in the code that had it's gonna go into the canned goods container and it's gonna be at the top of that. So there's your chili.
Okay.
And so notice that the bought date here is empty.
Yeah.
And then when I buy it, now that date got set in that handler that said if the is bought goes from false to true, then set the bought date to right now. Okay.
Why does Peaches have a date?
What's that?
He clicked it just to
Oh,
stop.
yeah, when I was
I
testing.
guess
it out.
I'm clicking doesn't unbuy it.
It could be used as like
Yeah.
the last bot date.
That's the last bought date. So like when did I get this last?
Right.
Okay. So anyway, these are all just different things here. Okay, so here's a drop down. So you can either scroll down to the category, or you can just stay at the top up here and say, I want a new freezer thing, and let's get some, blueberries or something.
Yeah.
Blueberries. Okay, and then you add this, and then
Somewhere.
put it down here.
Yeah.
Where's freezer? Oh, it's going to be up here.
Where is
Okay,
it?
there's my blueberries. And then say there's a new category that you want, then you click this, and this is just a normal. I could make a nice UI for this, but this is just the prompt
Right.
thing. All right, what's another category? What's another category? Let's get
Household cleaning.
cleaning. Okay, so that basically updated this drop down with that item.
Okay.
And now I can say, let's see, bleach. How's that?
Yeah.
Okay.
When you refresh the page, is it sorted alphabetically?
Yeah. Yeah, we can refresh.
I think that this kind of raises the question of how is it like. I found my experience with HTMX to be that like getting the page refresh to match the HTMX updates was tricky. Like, this is a great example, right? Like, is there a way to insert cleaning alphabetically in the drop down?
Oh, it did.
It was at the bottom.
Oh, when I added it.
Yeah. So then when you
I'm
adding
adding that with JavaScript actually, not with HTMX.
So if you click the drop down right now for canned goods,
Yeah.
cleaning is not alphabetically sorted. So
Right.
there's actually a difference between when you add it and then when you refresh the page, the UI does change. And that's the thing that
Well, that if I wanted to, I could re-render this thing with HTMX and it would be sorted. But I didn't do it like that.
Uh-huh.
I just said, do the
It's
prompt,
fine.
inject
Yeah.
the thing.
Hmm.
Okay. Okay, so that's adding a new category. We'll show you the code for that. And okay, then there's basically, you jump to these, other things. There's no categories here. Okay. So let me show you the server sent events with this. Now, the people that are watching this on the screen, they're not going to see this because I can't share two windows at the same time.
Can you do between two tabs, or the tabs are sharing?
Well, I want you to see, you got to see both windows simultaneously.
Oh, yeah.
Okay, so let me take this guy and stick it here. Get the other window over here. So that is that one. All right, so we'll be on Costco here. Okay, there's that one. Okay. Okay, so now when I go, I want to go into shop mode. So shop mode only shows the things you haven't bought yet. So you don't have to scroll so much. And so now when let me do both of these in shop mode. Okay, so now when I buy my peaches over here, they disappear over there. Or my kimchi. Oops, let me scroll down here. So see how and then you can shop on this side. See, that's,
Yeah.
so let me show you how easy this is. This is insane to get this kind of functionality. Okay, we got to go back to the code. Okay, so let's scroll down here. We're in list view.
I think the code sharing is a lot more readable than it normally is for code sharing screen shares like this. Back there,
Oh,
Yeah, let's do it, Becky.
oh, a second. I gotta get up to where this thing starts. So here we go. Okay, so basically, inside of the main tag, so this is the main tag of the whole page. I say if I'm in shopping mode, then add the HX extension, which is SSE server sent events, connect to this URL. So I have server sent events, listen, and then I pass in the list ID. And so the list ID says the server sent events has like a registry of listeners. So I'm basically saying I'm listening for list number 1, any changes that you send me. And then that gets injected right here. So that's basically that. It's just those two things. And then down here in the category, which is right here, I have SSE swap, and I'm listening for the category dash, whatever the category is, event. So you make a connection, and then the connection can receive events for multiple things on the page. And that the HTML that gets sent back is injected into this div tag that has category ID, whatever the category is. Does that make sense? So there's three lines of code or 3 attributes on the client side. And then on the server side, you have your normal stuff, which I'll show you. So let me get in here. So let's look at see, so this is going to be the SSE. Okay, so this is my listening queue. It's just it's a constant hash. And then when I say, well, let me show you the subscription here. So when I say listen, I say, well, you have to return this text event stream to when you set up a server sent event. So this is just a header. So this is a response header, I should say. So this is response, and then it has a square bracket content type. So I'm basically saying after the browser connects to this URL, I'm going to send the event stream header. I create the channel. So the channel comes in as a variable. So in this case, it was list, -1. So that would be list -1. I say, does that channel exist? No. If it if it does exist, I pass X, I pass my context into it. So I create it as an array. So the channel is an array. And then every time a browser connects in, it says, take my context, which has my IO in it, and put it into that array. And then I set up this ping so that if a browser closes or the network goes out, I take them out of the queue. So every 10, what is it, 5 seconds? Yeah, every 10 seconds, I make sure the client is there. And if it's not there, I take them out of the queue. And I'll show you this in the browser. Okay, so that's subscribing to the queue. And then this is sending an event to the queue. So I have the channel, the event, and the data. So in the case of HTMX, the event is going to be the category ID, and the data is going to be raw HTML that I'm going to inject into the page. Does that make sense? So I basically say, send to list 1, category produce, and here's the HTML that all the listeners need to get. And so you basically send event : and your event name, data, and these server sent events are new line delimited. So you have an event and data, and your data has to be 1 line. It can be a huge HTML thing, but you got to take all the lines out, which is kind of annoying. So that's pretty much it. And then it will, if it can't talk to the client, I debug it just to see what's going on. Anyway, that's it. So let's go. Oh yeah, so let me go to the other code here, where when I update an item, so that's this function right here, the broadcast change. So I go to the list view, I filter it by list ID and the category that I'm in. So I'm only updating the one category where the thing got checked as bought. I'm not doing the whole page. This is not necessary. And then I'm in the shopping mode, so I only want the things I haven't bought yet. So that's what the is bought false. And then I order by category, which is category and name. And then I make the HTML for it, which is I'm looping through the data, calling the DHTML row function, which this generates HTML given an item. And then I join them, and then I strip out all the new lines. And then I call app SSE. So this is the module I was in. I call the send to queue function, and then I pass in the list ID, which is the channel, what category it is, which is the event, and then over here is the HTML for the broadcast. So there's 3 things that go into that function, and then it goes out to all the listeners. Does that make sense?
So you're tying the HTML to the change. Like, there's no way to strip out the data and what it's supposed to look like, I guess.
Yeah, well, this is I'm doing it this way because of the HTMX. That's how HTMX works.
Oh,
And the way I built it for my other system, which is like a chat system, I tell the clients that there's a new chat message, and then the client goes and gets the new information. I just like that better. But I was trying to do like the pure HTMX thing, which it is less code than the way I have it done for my thing, but my thing is a lot more powerful because I can do logic on the client. Like, is someone editing this, or is someone, because if someone was in the middle of editing something that could blow away their edit, you know, if it's in that block, stuff like that. Yeah, so this is HTMX is good for many things, but not for everything.
Mhm.
But overall, it's pretty good.
Is that HTML for broadcast, it sounds like an observer pattern?
Yeah, it's like a pub sub
Yeah.
thing.
Okay.
Yeah.
But if you had multiple queues, you could just create multiple HTML for broadcast and then just publish to different queues, like all of
Yeah,
the method, okay.
Yeah, all
So you
the
could do like an infinite amount of publishings here.
yeah. Yeah, when you request to listen, you pass in what channel you're listening to, and then the code says, here's an update for this channel, and everyone listening to that channel gets the code. It's basically one-way WebSockets, so you can't talk back to the server through a server sent events. You can only make the connection and then stuff just goes out. The advantage of it is it doesn't have any problem with firewalls. There are some firewalls that block WebSockets, not so much anymore, but it used to be a big problem. So this is pure HTTP, and you can look at it. Okay, here we go. You ready? Can you tell which one of these I'm sharing? This one?
Yeah.
Let's get to the network here. So I'm in. Okay, so here is list one. So this is the HTMX connection. And these are those pings every 10 seconds. So you can actually see every request that comes, or not request, every event that comes from the server back to the client. You can see it here. So when I come over here and I check that off, this is that one. And then you can see, let's see here. I don't know that you can see the actual. I'm not sure why the raw data is not showing. Anyway. Oh, the raw data is empty because it took it out. That's right. Let me get one. This one. Here we go. So this is the data that came back. So it's really easy to see like what's going on with this. The inspector is quite robust. The reason that other one didn't have anything in it is because it was the last thing in that category. So the category was empty. But anyway, does that make sense?
Yeah.
So this is all the HTML for what was left. All right. I know that was like a brain full.
Yeah.
Any questions?
Let's see. I don't know. Well, number one, I just want to say thanks for speaking. Like you clearly have a lot of like joy from it. Like you the entire time that you were speaking, you had a smile on your face, and I think that I also remember maybe 2 years ago you gave a lightning talk at Rocky Mountain about this, and I remember the same thing is like you're smiling about it constantly. So that makes learning about this a joy as well. So thank you.
All right.
I don't know a lot about functional programming. Is Waxx an example of functional programming?
It's like 99% functional.
Yeah.
So there's pure functional programming has no side effects. So when you basically pass arguments into a function and it will not change any of those arguments. that's a core principle, which makes debugging easy because if you pass something into a function and you pass the same thing into the function again, you're always going to get the same result. Like that's like the guarantee. Whereas like in classes, you can, depending on the state of your class, your function can actually do different things and affect the class different ways. So bugs are easier or harder to find. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I do, and I wasn't sure if I was gonna bring up this comment. So would you say functional programming is very conventional?
Conventional. What do you mean by that?
I know. And that's why like I was hesitant to like use the word, right?
So conventional. I think it's to me it's simpler. I mean, I was really hardcore into object-oriented programming. I thought it was like just incredible. It's incredible to a certain extent, and then when systems get really huge, you get these weird bugs that are so hard to find. And so, you know, the cost of software is primarily in the maintenance. It's not in the development initially. And so, and I get paid to maintain my software. I basically, I don't write software for anyone where I give them the software. I only write software that I maintain and they pay me a monthly fee. So I basically host it and maintain it and all that stuff. And I switched to that model after the .com exploded and I lost everything. Because I was writing software for people, like they were huge projects. And then after the .com thing, all my customers just disappeared and I was broke for, at least a year. So then I was like, I need a better business model. So I said, I'm not going to build any software unless I also manage it. And so my drive to not have to spend money managing it is really high. So I basically, I want it to be as maintainable as possible. And what that means is I know exactly where the code is that is having an issue. And I can understand the code just by, I don't have to go hunting through 10 different files and look at the inheritance chain of this or that. And why is this happening? One thing I hate about Rails is like the before whatever. It's like,
what I think your question is like, there is like an element of what you're talking about that is very Railsy, which is like there's one way to do things, or there's a conventional way to do things. But it seems like it's like convention without the magic.
Yeah, I don't like magic. There's a couple, like the render function is kind of magic, but it only does one thing. It says if the extension is JSON, hold on, I gotta show you this.
Because a lot of the Rails conventions, or a lot of what Rails is what people would consider magic, that it's like global state and like hard to trace.
Where's my, here we go. Okay, so this is, hold on, I'll just do it up here. So this is list one. .json. And that's your list. So there's the reason this is really important to me is that some customer might say, I want to have access to this data from this other app or whatever. And all I have to do is say as JSON, and none of my code changes. All the permissions are there. All the business logic. Like if you're looking at that shopping list and I take curl and I post in that something is bought, it'll update that browser. You know what I mean? Because it's all the same, whether it comes in as JSON or it comes in as HTML, it all goes through the same business logic flow.
Yeah, the last thing, thanks for answering the questions. The last thing I'll say is like, even though I may have been lost in the sauce in the middle part of the presentation, the way you started it, like explaining how Waxx is organized, and then the end of how easy it is to see in the debug console.
Yeah.
That message, the ease of maintenance.
Yeah.
It was a motif through the talk, so that I understand, so thank you.
Okay. Cool. Sorry that it wasn't as good as I thought because I couldn't jump around while I was, doing stuff.
Zoom.
Or Linux, I'm not sure. I didn't know it had that particular
Zoom on,
limitation.
Zoom on Linux.
Any other questions?
I think I would be interested in seeing like the other app you built with this, like the one you referenced as your chat app. It's easy
Chat
to
app,
see.
my chat app is broken at the moment.
I think when it's all data, it's really easy to have that directory structure and have it make sense. And like if I started out telling you like, oh, we need to check like the sales for Trader Joe's and like query their API, and then if they have a sale, then we have to like, that's when like your directory structure I think would like explode, and then I'd be curious to see what that happens.
My directory structure is really good at that. So I basically have like I do OAuth with different customers, and I do credit card processing. So I have my credit card processing folder, and then I have Stripe and Square as folders in there. So I know exactly where those are. And I talk to their API.
There's a talk by Derek Pryor called The Relentless Pursuit of Rest. It basically talks about exactly your question, which is like basically dispels every fallacy that like you can't make everything restful.
Yeah.
Which would basically say that if you have a system that relies on that restful architecture, that you can coerce it into that system. So coerce is the keyword.
Yeah, okay, like, but if I were a developer and like you wanted to expose your API publicly, like I might actually have to put like a gateway or a shim over it or something, because the endpoints weren't restful technically. But
I forgot to show you that.
Okay, it's restful.
Okay, hold on. I gotta show you this other thing.
Wait, why do you say so?
Because like he's doing,
Because it's less than you.
yeah, we don't have like the resource / ID /
Yeah, it's fair.
Just because like your
Well, there's sort of
your
like,
your verb and then your resource and then maybe an identifier.
yeah,
There's YAML.
like you would have to.
YAML's a little easier to read.
Figuring like this or.
Like it'd be persons, not person / list.
Okay, because Waxx, when you define a runner, like you say runs, and you have that all the API interfaces, that's actually writing into a big giant hash. And I can show that hash to you through this Waxx describe.
Is this the introspection for reference?
Yeah, this is the whole API for the whole app. And so I can basically say, where's my list here? So here's the item. So here's the list function. You have to be a user. Here's the search function. It says the X parameters required, and then like the list ID is optional. So this is all just looking at the functions and the whole structure. And then some things like the Waxx stuff, you have to be an admin. Like where am I at here?
It's like stripped down open API.
It is. Well, I wrote this like 20 years ago. This is before Open API. It's I do this for auditing. So I can say, tell me all my functions that are accessible by a user or by the public or whatever.
Yeah.
So it's really nice. I can just pull this stuff and I do some JSON queries on it. And it's just like, oh, I forgot to put the ACL for that. Or, you have to be in this group or whatever. So that's really what I use this mostly for, is checking my permissions. Anyway.
Cool.
You can also do this one.
All right.
Good.
Yeah.